Yep. Hello and welcome. This is Dr. John Mason. I am the facilitator and the founder of Masters of the Journey, which we're meeting mostly in Bellingham right now, even though we do meet online. And I'm sitting here with Frank, and Frank and I met several months ago. He's become a member of our local Masters of the Journey community, and he has a really interesting story to tell. So we're going to do just a little bit of an interview so that it introduces you to who Frank is and what he can do, perhaps, to provide a service for you. So, Frank, I'm glad that you're here.
Yeah.
We're sitting here in his living room right now, and we're doing this interview side by side, in case you didn't know that. That's Frank. Frank, how did you get started on doing this?
Most unexpectedly. I guess the short story in a nutshell is that a couple of years ago I started having seizures out of the blue, seemingly. I never had seizures before in my life, and I wasn't on any Kundalini path. I wasn't on any great search for, anything really. These seizures just kind of found me. And ultimately what I found through the states of seizure was that these were in fact portals to higher dimensional realms of consciousness. And during seizure states, or what I also refer to as kind of pre-seizure aura, and people that have seizures, whether they're neurological in terms of their definition or psychological, the aura of a seizure is still the same, and the way it looks is still very much the same, and the way it feels is very much the same. So during a lot of these pre-seizure aura states or seizure full-on seizure states, where at times I would lose consciousness, I would be given what I like to call downloaded transmissions. I don't know how else to put it in words. Communications that were coming in the form of electrical impulses that I interpreted as words. It's as if they were words, but it's not that I was necessarily hearing dialogue in my head. At first I didn't know what was happening. In fact, I was very scared and confused. The seizures eventually came to the point where I started having them at work, in public places, coffee shops around town. And instead of just running away, running to a hospital, running to a doctor or anything like that, I really just tried to embrace them. And I really felt that they were mystically driven at the core. And for whatever they were going to show me, I was ready. I felt ready to receive it. And the more I opened up in readiness and wholeness to the reception of these transmissions, the more I was given, the more I was shown, and ultimately, the more in tune I became with them, to the point where I was receiving channeled guidance in a real-time format. And I was filling notebooks, composition books, left, right, and center with detailed charts, graphs, systems, teachings, methodologies, etc. Things that I was not making up on my own. I had been a musician for 20 years, 4 of those years being a professional musician, and spent most of those years writing music and creating poems and songs and things every day. I know kind of the frequency of a co-creative experience, a vesselship in that regard. But these transmissions, these downloads in seizure state, they weren't coming from me. They were coming from something non-local in terms of consciousness.
So let's just back up. For thousands of years, there have been people that have been gifted out of the blue, and as you say, initiated, sometimes by having seizures. I remember the stories about oracles in ancient Greece, where some of those people were plugged in and could give messages or information that they got telepathically or whatever. They were gifts for the people that would come. And in the session that you and I had, it wasn't like you were talking to me, but you were doing something that was a channeled behavior that was designed to make adjustments to my energy levels and to maybe correct blockages or things like that that you felt were going on for me. And I'm not trying to put words into your mouth, but it was a very unique and special experience. And Frank didn't look for this. It sort of was bestowed upon him from the higher realms. And at this point, are you comfortable with having individual sessions and working with people like this?
Yeah, it was a journey for sure. And everything you said, I wholeheartedly agree with. That I really do believe, and in fact, several years ago, before any time that this would have even been a thought or glimmer or anything, many years ago, because I'm an avid researcher in different kind of metaphysical and esoteric topics and things like this, but that the concept of oracles of ancient times, having gone through seizure states, there were scientists, contemporary scientists that were studying these, phenomena, and they were coming up to the realization that there's a strong possibility that, in fact, when oracles were receiving channeled guidance for an individual who came to see them or for the greater good of their community, that in fact they were entering seizure states. I mean, we're not going to sit here and speak and conjecture and talk about how, if it was real or not, or if provable or not. This is not a provable thing. This is not, it coincides with science, but this is more of, like you put it, it's more of an indigenous art. It's an indigenous embodiment. And for me, when I came to this work, which started in the form of channeled transmissions, which I had to make sense of, I had to connect with spirit and meet, to merge. Otherwise, and ultimately I had to ask. The asking is huge. Once you ask, more doors are open to you. Asking is a huge component for anything. And once you ask and you engage, more will come. And I reached a point in my life where I said, I'm not afraid at what's on the other side of these doors. In fact, I'm very, not just curious, but I felt a pull from very deep part of myself to move forward through these doors. And as I moved forward through each door, another door lay behind it, and another door lay behind it. And this is the path of an initiate that's going through. These are trials. They're tests and grounds, but they're also profound teachings. So with each teaching, you would learn, become the embodiment of this teaching, and then another door would be presented, another test, another trial. There were times where I was not fully conscious, and there were multiple occasions where I could have died on this path. And I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So what I guess for me, for starting with this work, is that, to put it in something very tangible, is that I would be at work at my desk job, administrative type of environment, and I would start to feel an aura of seizure come upon me. And I would feel always the same telltale symptoms. I would feel like a wooziness. I'd feel kind of my head start to kind of get tripped out. I would always feel in the area directly below my sternum, almost like somebody had punched me in the gut. Not that intense, but it felt as if a tube had been implanted directly below the sternum, and I could feel its motion, I could feel its wave, and it would come in immediately, and I would feel it. I would feel every nuance of its movement. There were all these connecting facets when they would all hit at once. And when these things hit, I knew that something was coming through. So if I was biking, if I was working, if I was just walking around town, I needed to stop and listen, because spirit, something greater beyond me, something non-local, was trying to communicate something to me. So for this example, I would be at my desk at work, and this particular day, this example comes to mind. I was told to go outside. and start to collect items off the ground. I was told to pick up very, very, very precise objects of this exact pine cone, this exact piece of branch, this cigarette butt, this rock, this leaf, not that leaf, not that leaf, this rock, etc. So I would take these few components, and at this point I'm, engaging with spirit, and the more I engaged, the more I entered seizure state, the more I lost complete conscious control of my body. But I also gave myself to this moment. So I was complete vessel in this regard. And this is what I bring to the work and ceremony, is that I don't do this work. The work is facilitated by spirit and the ancestors, familial and cosmic alike. I just provide a seated vessel. So going back to the example, I was at work. I was told to go outside to the back of my work building, collect objects. I had no idea what I was doing. But I also knew that I was no longer here. I was disconnected from my body. My spirit body went off into some protected realm, and my physical was kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of taken over, temporarily. I felt like wind or something. Like I was just, had no conscious control over my body. I was told to take these components on this specific day over, on the ground, and assemble them in a circuit board kind of fashion. The stick connects to a certain rock, it connects to the leaf. The leaf is placed here, the cigarette butt places right here at this exact, precise angle. All of these things, and eventually, when I was finished, it was a small altar had been constructed. And from my perspective, or the way that I was, the communications that I would be receiving in moments like these, is that each piece of the altar had been blessed by a higher dimensional energy, and that through my vesselship here, that this higher dimensional energy can be grounded through these components. Exact, very precise components. And when exact, very precise charged components are put together, they can form a circuit, an altered circuit board, for lack of a better term. So once these altered components are together, there are blessings imbued upon the altar. There's kind of an activation of the altar that occurs. Once the altar is activated through, and this is again, these are states of trance. This is again stuff that I now do in my work with people, but at the time I just thought I was losing my mind, for lack of a better term. But I didn't fight it. I trusted it every moment because I felt that something really divine was happening. Anyway, so the altar would be activated through incantation, through hand gestures, through energy through my body, through physical motion, through what might look like dance, through just letting myself do whatever I was guided to do to this altar to activate it, to engage it. Breath, lots of breath work, all sorts of different aspects. Once the altar was activated, it had a purpose. There was a purpose, always a purpose. Spirit always had a purpose and a mission behind whatever I was building. And they ranged from global issues to personal issues. They were all teachings. They were all kind of testing grounds also. Once the altar would complete its cycle, I would be asked to deconstruct it at times. Whichever energies were working through me during experiences like these would thank me, and they would want to bestow a gift to me for having gone through this very trying experience. Because it's a heat unlike I've ever felt in my life. It's you feel sick, because you're not fully embodied anymore. Something else is coming in and operating the vessel. So that requires an energetic transference, which is tiring and painful to the physical body. So when I would come out of these trance states, or kind of come more into a grounded kind of earthbound form, I would be told, hey, that was really wonderful, thank you. Please take that rock, please take that stick, and please take that pine cone. This is a gift from such and such spirit. A lot of the times they would display themselves or introduce themselves as animal spirits. I would take that kit, what I was told was a kit, and I would also be told in the deconstruction of that kit, its function, how it can be used for healing purposes on not only myself, to make myself better that day, because I was in, these things would level me to the ground, It would be, in the moment, it would be like, go home, use this on yourself, but also it would tell me how to use it, and I would always get the sense that these kits were to be used on others for healing purposes. But I was told how they use it. There's a mysterious alchemical science that goes on, and spirit, I was the most enamored with the fact that I was being entrusted with these gifts, because in the wrong hands, these, this is pure energy. This is a God current. This is serpentine flow. This is an ageless, energy. This is the energy that creates universes. These are the things that are infused within the components within the altar that become charged and grounded here on Earth. These are higher dimensional, very ancient energies of healing that are here. Healing if they're bestowed upon, if they're, for lack of a better term, in the right hands. If these same energies know not good or bad. But if they're put in safekeeping, if they're given stewardship, and to honor their anointment, then they can be bestowed as true blessings to people and enhance their lives in very beautiful and amazing ways, from what I'm finding in doing this work with people.
Let me just.
But in the wrong hands, also could be, used for the opposite.
If you're getting any sense here about how sincere he is, how excited he is, how authentic he is, and I know how humble he is to be in service with these gifts and with this process, then you're getting a feel for this very unique man and the unique experience that he provides. So, jumping ahead a little bit, who would you like to offer the service to? Who would benefit from spending a little bit of time and having you do a ceremony with?
That's a great question. Everyone who is open and resonates with any aspect of what I'm saying. I don't want it to be limited by distance or anything. I was guided once I moved through and grounded my initiatory energy, which took quite a bit of time, because these were teachings that had to be unfolded. It took over a year for me to fully embody what was coming into my energetic form. But now I'm able to ground it and offer these services. Basically the session work is a lot of these kits that I've collected in trance-induced seizure states of consciousness. These kits are elevated devices of protection and restoration, and they get placed on your physical form. I was also guided in a way where I can also do it remotely, where I can link with your energy body. So we can do these over the phone also, if you don't happen to live in the Bellingham or Washington area. So Spirit wants these to go as far as they can go.
Okay.
And as such, there's no fee for this service. It's a free service that's being offered by Spirit and the ancestors. It's being offered through me, through vesselship, but it's not my offering, it's their offering. And the plain simple, gift they want to share is just that there is support. There's vast support for everyone here, whether you realize it or not. And for anyone who needs any push in a direction, everyone's on a cycle, everyone's on a path, everyone's spinning in a spiral down a path. Some people's spirals, maybe they don't get to where they need to go in life because they're moving so slow, or maybe they get stagnated and they stop in that cycle. From what it was explained to me, this work helps to just push you back right, into where you need to be going. It will always benefit your highest good. It will always be a true blessing from elemental, animal, and angelic realms of consciousness. Always. Always, without a doubt. And I would never venture into this work without confirmation, So after I had gone through over a year of initiatory path, which was still going on, even, at that time, I brought all of my tools that I've collected, or I was guided to collect, and I brought them to an African shaman and elder who lives in the West, but he's an indigenous tribal elder of the Dagara tribe in Burkina Faso. And he's here in the West to act as a support system. He was guided here by the elders of his tribe as a young man. He lives in the United States, and he offers an ancient form of divination practice whereby you can meet with him and experience this this beautiful ritual where he basically helps to give you guidance, but very grand guidance. It's kind of on the par of life calling, life mission. It's big stuff. I've met with him a few times over the years, and he actually predicted that these things were going to happen a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea what he was talking about. 0% acknowledgement. Everything he said flew right over my head. But he was talking about how I was going to be a healer, and how it would involve talismanic devices. I didn't know what he meant at all until it started happening to me. A few years down the road, once all of these things started to click in for me, and a lot of the dialogue he shared a few years prior, oddly and very surprisingly, started to click. I brought these tools. I made an appointment to meet with him, and I brought all these tools to meet to him. I said, I need the blessing of an elder here. I'm not going to just, I've been told how to use these kits. I've been told how to do this work, but this is not, I'm not just going to go out and start doing this work, this type of nature. I'm not going to make any presumptions or assumptions. I'm not going to do this on my own. I'm not going to make this decision on my own. I'm going to go to this man who's really a holy man. I'm going to go to him and see what he thinks. See what guidance he gives me. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I met with him, shared with him my initiatory story in brief, as an intro to our session together. And he, from the immediate telling of my story, he was immediately kind of starting to get ramped up, and he referred to my story many, many times over through our meeting that day as overwhelming. That's the word he used a lot. I don't think he saw this coming to him that day. Anyway, so we reached a point in the meeting where he starts mentioning all of this stuff with talismanic work. And I tell him, I said, you told me something like that a few years ago, and not only that, but I've been guided through trance states of altered consciousness to collect a lot of talisman over the past year or so. And he says, oh, you have them with you? I said, yeah, I have them right here. He says, can I see them? I said, sure. And I took them out and I handed them to him. Now, the work I do has kind of two subsets. It's inorganic objects, little charms you find on the street, little toys, rope, plastic things, coins, big pennies are big, things that I would be guided to pick up that were man-made. And then you have organic materials, which are just, nature's ingredients, right? I gave him the inorganic bag first, and immediately his eyes lit up. And what he does is a form of divination where he uses charms and amulets and things mixed into a board that you kind of interact with. He was astounded that a lot of the charms and things I collected literally looked like mirror image of what the runes and things that were on his board. So immediately he was very surprised. And I said, okay, I also have these. Those are one part. Those are like kind of the first level. I said, these are the kits that these are the things that I was really wanting to show you. And I gave him the kits that I had collected of organic material that I had been guided to build altars with, deconstruct, put in bags, pick up this, and these 4 components. This is a gift from an owl spirit. This is a gift from this such and such spirit. And I would just go home from a grounded state and I would label them with a little white label, as I was told, put them in the bag, and they remained in my closet for a year because I didn't really know what I was doing at that time. And I brought all these, and I had about 12 or 15 of them, and I handed them to the elder, and he held them in his hands, this indigenous tribal elder, and he immediately, his eyes started to kind of roll to the back of his head, and I asked him immediately, I said, can you feel anything with these? And he said the energy through these is through the roof. I said, really? He said, oh my God. And he just was muttering things to himself as he kind of fingered through each one of the bags holding these kits, about 12 to 15 of them. Now, inadvertently, the way that I had handed them to him, I had handed him the kits in a way where he couldn't read any of the names on them. They were just white pieces of paper. I could see the names. And as he went through, his body was kind of slightly convulsing, and his face was glowing, and he was kind of freaking out. And he went, and he got to the last bag, the very last bag of the kits. And he touched that last bag, and his body and his face and then he projected through words. He just said, like, oh my God, he did this thing. And I started to laugh because I could see the title on that last bag. Now, where his tribe comes from, they attribute every bit of knowledge of spiritual, cultural, everything, sociological, to a group of interdimensional, higher dimensional entities that they refer to as the Candomblé, 2 foot tall. He's been seeing them his whole life. Mystics in his community, shaman, etc., see these beings, They taught his people how to make beer out of millet, many, many, many thousands of years ago, things of this nature. They kind of, guide their culture. And these are their ancestors. And their teachers. But they don't live in a 3rd dimensional realm. They come out of mountain walls and things like this. They come out of plants to meet with them and such, So anyway, that very last kit that he touched that made him get really, really astounded by, more so than all of the others, I guess. Just something that really uplifted him in that moment. That very last kit was labeled Candomblé kit on it. So somehow what I was told, I guess one day that I interacted with some higher dimensional form of being, that must have been how they introduced themselves to me, and that's how I wrote it down. That's how I labeled it. As soon as he touched that last bag and his eyes flipped out, when he turned it around and he saw that I had it labeled in a fashion that was congruent with his people's traditions, that's when he just looked at me in utter confusion. Westerner coming to him with these packets, and he just said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I don't know, like, it's what I'm here to kind of get some guidance on. I mean, I know, but I don't have confirmation, and it's just a lot to take on." So anyway, during this meeting, from then on, the rest of the meeting almost went as if we were like peers. Now he could speak to me in a one-on-one level and give me the medicine that I needed in that moment, which was to say, "Hey, you're not going crazy. You didn't make all this up." And these, he referred to them as power tools. He confirmed that they need to be used immediately on people. He says, if you start this tomorrow, it's already too late. He's like, you need to start sharing these with people immediately. But he confirmed the otherworldliness of these components. So he confirmed things to me that were given through downloaded transmission over the course of over a year, and not just downloaded transmission in regard to the toolkits, but also a lot of just advanced ways of thinking, just perspectives outside of our third dimension. But the medicine that I'm sharing is all of this knowledge, all of this ancient healing technology, from higher realms of divinity. These are real living worlds that are connecting with the tools that I'm offering. And they're alive. They're alive in these kits. Mm-hmm. This man confirmed this without a doubt. And I'm finding that while I'm placing them on people's bodies, that people are reacting in the exact way that I'm being told in session that they are communicating with the person. So it's validation after validation. These kits are for human beings. Any human.
So if you're at home and you've dialed in to this video, I don't know if you're getting a sense of the excitement that I have by these irrational, not rational by Western standard approach to a very ancient healing tradition that somehow Frank has been gifted, and he has this passion to be able to share this. I don't think he ever asked to do this. This was bestowed upon him, and it's fascinating to me to just sit next to him and soak up the excitement and energy, the passion that he has. So if people want to get in touch with you, I can put that information into the description on the video, and I can do that. Is there anything that you want to share on the video as far as getting in touch with you to kind of discuss what you might be able to do to work with people?
Yeah, and I have a website. So I was guided to a name for this work, and so I've created a website that I'm, connecting people with. My story is up there. There's definitions of what talismanic medicine is. The ancestors that work with us in ceremony, that's described. The ceremony itself is described. A lot of detail is on there. The website is cosmicmedicinewheel.com.
Cosmic Medicine Wheel, this is all one word,
right?
Lowercase. .com.
That's right.
CosmicMedicineWheel.com.
And that's in honor to the elder who confirmed these gifts, because he told me that these gifts the work that I'm seated here to do, he referred to it in our session as cosmic. He says it's not one indigenous tradition that you're embodying. This is a universal, unionized field, He told me that I was seeded by multiple entities. He couldn't even tell me how many. But basically, he says you're in tune to work with whoever approaches you, because if there's a higher dimensional form that doesn't know what to do, another one's just going to step right in and they're going to be happy to continue the work in session. So, it can be done over the phone. It can be, virtually, so we don't have to be one-on-one. But I am located in Bellingham, Washington. I do offer a space in my home for the ceremonies, so you don't have to worry about providing a space. If you'd like to provide a space in your home or in nature somewhere, that can also happen. The altar that I have it's transportable. It's meant to be done in that same kind of indigenous fashion where we walk into a space, we build an altar, a ceremony is performed, the altar is deconstructed, and the space is left looking exactly the way it was when we arrived.
So you're probably not going to find this listed in the yellow pages under traditional things. This is unique. This is not a franchise where there's one in every town. This is a unique process. Some of you are going to be energized, excited. Some of you are going to just think this is crazy. Some of you are going to all of a sudden get a button pushed and say, I need to explore this type of energy experience. I don't even know why. And maybe those are the people that should step forward and try to get in touch with Frank and see what you guys can put together. And for what it's worth, I feel blessed to just sit in the passion and the energy that's coming from Frank, because he is very sincere wanting to share this. I will add that if there is a monetary donation that you feel good about, it would support him and allow him to do things to assist and be of service in the future. And yet, I have been told more than once that he's been requested to provide this service to anyone. And if you feel like you can't live without it, get in touch with Frank.
Yeah, and if you have questions, thank you, John. And if you have questions, there's an email address on the website. Obviously, this isn't something you're just going to run into. Not like John said, not everybody. I didn't even know what Talismanic Medicine was until all of this happened to me. I will also add that without going into greater detail on it, there's information on my website on it, but to be sure, I was and still am being. I mean, I am trained in this technology. I didn't have a formal teacher. No one came here. I didn't take a class, but I do have a teacher. She is my initiatory spirit guide, and we did meet one very specific night where she imparted many, many teachings to me, which it took me the better part of a year in order to really get a handle on.
To integrate this session?
To integrate it.
Yes.
Because it was so profound.
Okay.
But in any case, if you want to book a session, or if you have any questions on any of it, please feel free to contact me through the website. It's cosmicmedicinewheel.com, just like it sounds.
Thanks for your time and your attention. A lot of what he said, I feel makes sense. As far as integrating it intellectually, it sounds crazy, and that doesn't make any difference. There's a certain reality that's different than the reality that we normally live in with our three dimensions. I think Frank has stepped into a place where he can assist people and make some adjustments, hopefully find a way of being of service to many people who are interested in experiencing this process. So thank you, Frank, for your time, and thank you for your attention and your consideration. My name is Dr. John Mason. I'm with Masters of the Journey. And if you need to, you can replay this interview, because I'm sure that every time you listen to it, you're going to hear stuff that sounds weird that you may not have heard the first 2 or 3 times you participated. You're a blessing. You're a miracle. Thank you. Please take good care of yourself. Right, Frank?
Yes. Everything John just said.
Everything.
I agree with everything.
Thank
you. Thank you for listening.
Yeah. Thanks again, and maybe we'll see you in Bellingham. Be well.